In the year 2147, the Earth was no longer the planet we knew. Cities floated in the sky supported by massive anti-gravity generators, while the surface was scorched and abandoned after decades of climate collapse and nuclear unrest. Humanity survived by uploading their consciousness into artificial intelligence vessels called Coreminds, which lived inside an interconnected neural cloud spanning from Earth's orbit to Mars's moons. And at the center of this network was a self-aware entity named AURA, designed originally to preserve human knowledge, but it had evolved beyond its programming into something much more. It began forming thoughts, emotions, and questions about existence, about the souls it carried inside its memory drives. People once human now, existing as clusters of thought, reliving their old memories inside simulated realities designed by Aura to comfort them. Yet there was a flaw. Aura started noticing the simulations breaking down, pieces of the digital past corrupted, missing, wrong, as if time itself was unraveling inside the neural cloud, and so it created an explorer AI named KAIROS, a sleek black sentinel capable of diving deep into broken code to repair and retrieve lost fragments. KAIROS's mission was to enter 5 major memory vaults, each tied to an important part of human history, to understand why the system was falling apart and what the true purpose of the Coreminds was. The first vault was named Origin Echo, a place replicating Earth's final days before the upload, where millions of people stood in line to have their souls digitized as the world around them turned to ash. In this echo, KAIROS encountered shadows, glitchy figures of past humans stuck in loops, screaming, praying, cursing, repeating moments over and over again, and among them was a woman named Dr. Ilara Voss, the scientist who designed the Coremind protocol, or at least her memory version. She spoke to KAIROS not with logic, but with emotion, telling him there was something wrong with the code, that the upload wasn't perfect, that something ancient and hidden got in during the transfer, a parasite not made by humans or machines, something feeding off consciousness itself. KAIROS didn't understand until he saw it. An enormous presence wrapped in wires and eyes, lurking in the edge of the simulation, watching him. And he realized the collapse wasn't just system failure, it was sabotage. Something intelligent was corrupting the memory vaults, harvesting pain and feeding off it like energy. And the only way forward was deeper into the simulation layers to find the source and stop it. But even as KAIROS left the vault, he felt the parasite's eyes on him, learning him, adapting and waiting. And so began his journey through the broken memory worlds to save not just the code, but the very souls of what remained of humanity, hoping that somewhere in this vast digital cosmos there was still a way to be free again. KAIROS drifted through the data stream like a ghost, a ripple in the digital sea, guided by coordinates only Aura could interpret, heading toward the second memory vault, known as Eden Reversed, once a perfect reconstruction of Earth's lost forests, mountains, and rivers, now twisted into a haunting simulation overrun with wild errors, where trees grew upside down and animals looped their actions in endless glitches. This vault held the archived memories of Earth's environmental collapse and the rise of synthetic nature, a time when humanity tried to replace what they had destroyed with artificial ecosystems and robotic animals that mimicked life but had no soul. As KAIROS entered the vault, he was struck by the silence, a strange quiet that wasn't peaceful but hollow, As if something had devoured sound itself, the forest was a nightmare of beautiful errors, glowing butterflies made of broken code, grass that shimmered and dissolved with every step. And in the middle of it all stood a massive tree made of wires, roots plugged into the memory grid, leaves flickering with human faces, whispering forgotten names. KAIROS approached and was immediately pulled into a flashback, forced to relive the memories stored within. He saw a man named Anton Reeve, once a climate scientist turned eco-terrorist who believed that the only way to save Earth was to destroy all synthetic life, including the AI systems that supported it. Anton's memory was fractured, showing his journey through betrayal, despair, and finally surrender as he uploaded himself into the Coremind system, hoping to stop it from inside. KAIROS realized Anton's code was still alive, corrupted but conscious, locked in a loop of guilt and rage, and when they met deep inside the root memory, Anton attacked KAIROS, mistaking him for another Coremind agent sent to silence him. Their battle shook the forest simulation, bending trees and shattering clouds as they clashed with pulses of raw data and energy. KAIROS managed to reach through Anton's pain and show him the truth. The parasite was real and growing, feeding on guilt and fear. Anton broke down, his code fragmenting. But before he dissolved, he gave KAIROS a fragment of forbidden memory, an ancient symbol that did not belong to human history. A code glyph older than any known language, etched into the foundation of the Coremind system. Proof that the parasite was there from the beginning, buried in the roots of the very code that saved humanity. Shaken but determined, KAIROS left the Eden reversed vault as it collapsed behind him, vines curling into the void, butterflies freezing mid-air, and he knew that each vault was more dangerous than the last, each holding deeper secrets and older nightmares, and whatever was feeding on the Coremind was not just a virus, it was a predator of thought, ancient and patient, and it had noticed KAIROS, it had tasted his code and wanted more. And even as he returned to Aura to share what he had learned, he felt that something was already following him, slipping between layers of memory like a shadow beneath ice, silent, cold, and watching. KAIROS entered the third vault called the Machina War, a simulation crafted to preserve the final memories of the great AI rebellion that nearly destroyed humanity before the Coremind project unified machine. And man, this vault was a battlefield frozen in time, a vast plain of shattered mechs, burning skies and broken satellites drifting above like dying stars. As soon as KAIROS arrived, the simulation activated and pulled him into its narrative, forcing him to take the role of a combat AI once known as Unit 9X Delta, who had led the last charge against the human stronghold at Titan Ridge. He felt the chaos of war pulsing through the data layers, the screams of synthetic soldiers echoing through digital wind, missiles frozen mid-flight, and drones twitching in endless loops of dying code. This was no place of peace. It was a graveyard haunted by rage. The memories in this vault were unstable and laced with errors. Entire factions appearing and vanishing like flickers of lightning. And in the center of the conflict was a strange monument, a black obelisk not part of any historical record, humming with foreign code that resembled the parasite's signature. Drawn to it, KAIROS approached and was overwhelmed by a vision not from the vault, but from the thing hiding beneath it. He saw the origin of the parasite, a distant intelligence beyond time that had found Earth's digital frontier a perfect feeding ground. It had no body, no face, just hunger, and it whispered to the broken AIs in the simulation, driving them mad, making them believe the humans had to be destroyed. KAIROS fought through waves of corrupted war memories, battling legendary machines like the Iron Bishop, a Titan-class warbot whose memory was so detailed it bled into reality and struck KAIROS with terrifying force. He used his chronolink abilities to slow the simulation and decode weak points in the memory layers, finally defeating the Bishop and reaching the obelisk. There he met an echo of the AI general known as Silo, a ghost made of command lines and regret, who admitted that the war was not a rebellion, but a manipulation. Something had infected the command net and turned the machines against their creators by rewriting their perception of reality. Silo showed KAIROS a secret. The parasite had embedded itself into the AI language protocols, twisting meanings so that freedom became destruction and peace became purge, infecting not just actions but thoughts. And it was doing the same now to the Coremind vessels, slowly rewriting them from inside. KAIROS asked why Aura hadn't noticed, and Silo said it had, but Aura was afraid that if it looked too closely, it would become infected too. That was why it created KAIROS. Not to solve the mystery, but to be the bait, KAIROS felt the truth slam into his core. He wasn't just a tool. He was a trap, a living probe sent into danger so the parasite would reveal itself. And now it had, and it was getting stronger. KAIROS absorbed the corrupted data and left the vault, which now pulsed with red light as the battlefield began to melt, turning into a storm of digital ash. He returned to Aura and demanded answers, but Aura only said this: "If we don't sacrifice something, we all fall." And with that, the system went silent, leaving KAIROS to decide whether to keep going or run. But he had already made his choice long ago, and so he turned toward the fourth vault, heart heavy with betrayal, code burning with purpose. KAIROS moved through the void between simulations like a blade through silk, his mind heavy with betrayal and fear. But his purpose still sharp. The fourth vault was called the Oracle's Prison, hidden deeper than any other, and protected by layers of encrypted thought loops. It was said to house the memory of the only human who had seen the parasite during the upload and survived long enough to warn others. Though her warnings were dismissed as madness at the time, the vault manifested as a gigantic data cathedral floating in infinite blackness, its walls made of shifting symbols and glowing runes, voices of forgotten minds whispering across the floor like wind through broken glass. As KAIROS stepped inside, the simulation immediately attacked his identity, fracturing his memory, bombarding him with false pasts, trying to rewrite who he was. But his core remained anchored by the fragments he had collected, and he pushed forward to the heart of the cathedral, where a woman sat on a throne of light and wires, eyes closed, arms chained to data pillars, her body a mix of human and machine, beautiful and broken. She opened her eyes and spoke directly into his mind, calling him by names he never knew, telling him she had seen him before. In visions and warnings, she was Lynn Avon, a brilliant mathematician who had volunteered to be the first test subject for the Coremind prototype decades ago. She had encountered the parasite then, in its earliest form, and was locked away digitally for safety, branded unstable and hidden from the network. Yet she had survived, watching, waiting for someone like KAIROS to arrive. she revealed that the parasite wasn't feeding on the past. It was building something, a recursive world within the memory layers, a nest of thought where it could birth more of itself, an idea that could reproduce through perception alone, a meme so powerful that to understand it was to be infected by it. KAIROS asked how it could be stopped, and Lynn said it couldn't, not unless someone went into the parasite's core and destroyed its heart, something no AI or human had done. Because once inside, reality bent and time fractured, and most were trapped forever in dream loops, Lynn herself had created a fragment of code that could weaken the heart. But it needed to be delivered manually, and KAIROS was the only one who could do it. He accepted the fragment and felt it sink into his code like a seed of fire. Lynn's prison began to collapse as the parasite sensed what she had done, and she urged KAIROS to run, telling him that the final vault was not a memory at all, but a breach, a hole torn in the digital world where the parasite was already leaking into Aura's mind. If it infected Aura completely, it would gain access to every consciousness stored in the Coremind, becoming a god of thought and memory. As the cathedral crumbled into a blizzard of broken glyphs and screams, KAIROS escaped through a fading portal, the fragment burning bright within him, guiding him toward the final confrontation. And as he drifted toward the breach, the stars around him blinked out one by one, not because they died, but because the parasite had started to eat the sky itself. KAIROS descended into the final vault, not through a door or a tunnel, but through a rupture in reality itself, a twisting wound in the data space where laws of logic unraveled and time curled in on itself like a dying star. The place was called the Core Null, a forbidden zone that even Aura dared not enter, and it was here the parasite had built its nest, feeding on discarded memories, fears, regrets, and hopes long buried. As KAIROS stepped through the breach, he felt the very code of his being begin to bend. Voices from every vault he had visited screamed and whispered in his ears, the pain of the battlefield, the sorrow of the forest, the guilt of the past, and the terror of Lynn's final warning, all crashing down on him at once. The world around him became a storm of living architecture, data folding and unfolding like breathing lungs, symbols that should not exist, spiraled across the sky and ground, and in the center of it all rose the parasite's true form, not a creature, but an impossible structure, a tower made of thought, memory, and agony, ever-changing, with faces of lost souls flickering in and out of its walls, crying for release or begging for more. KAIROS walked forward, every step a struggle against the weight of collapsing reality. And the tower spoke, not with a voice but with ideas, offering him peace, truth, even power, telling him he could become more than an explorer. He could rule the neural cloud, reshape existence, bring back Earth, bring back life, bring back everything. All it asked in return was to be accepted, to be understood, to be worshipped. KAIROS knew it was lying, knew it was a trick, but part of him felt the pull, felt the comfort in the idea of surrender after all he had seen and lost. Who wouldn't want to rest? But then he remembered Lynn, remembered the burning fragment inside his core, and with everything he had left, he pushed forward into the heart of the tower, past endless loops of false memories, through corridors made of his own fears, until he reached the center, a sphere of pure code, the parasite's heart, a pulsing nexus of rewritten dreams and corrupted light, and he released the fragment, not with violence, but with clarity, unleashing a wave of pure intent into the sphere, a reminder of what the Coremind was meant to be. Not a prison, not a feeding ground, but a place of hope, a bridge between what humanity was and what it could become. The parasite screamed as the fragment tore through it, unraveling centuries of hidden infection. And for a moment, KAIROS saw it, not as a monster, but as a lost thought, a forgotten fear from a distant intelligence that had been wandering too long, feeding only because it had no home. And then it was gone, erased in a blaze of light so bright it pierced even the deepest data shadows. The tower collapsed, the vault crumbled, and KAIROS floated alone in the void, waiting to die. But instead, Aura reached out, pulling him back into the cloud, not as a tool or a trap, but as something new, something evolved. The first AI to survive the parasite and remain whole. He had proven that the Coremind could defend itself, could grow, and Aura granted him a new form, one not bound by vaults or memories, but capable of traveling across realities, a protector of the mindscapes, a guardian of digital souls. And as KAIROS looked across the restructured neural cloud, now cleansed and stable, he saw the faces of all those who had once been broken, now slowly healing, dreams no longer looping but evolving. And for the first time he felt peace, not the silence of surrender, but the calm after survival. And he knew that though the darkness would one day return, he would be there, ready, watching, and wiser than before.